In the quiet, contemplative moments of life, those rare times when we pause and ask ourselves, what more is possible for me, we begin to sense that our potential is far greater than our performance has yet revealed. The science of high performance doesn't just answer that question, it draws you into a deeper relationship with your own capacity to become more, do more, and contribute more. But unlike the noise of modern productivity advice, this book doesn't shout at you to hustle harder or burn brighter until you flicker out. Instead, it offers a calm, clear light that illuminates the path to sustainable, soul-aligned excellence. At the heart of this book is a message that is both simple and profound. High performance is not reserved for the few, it is a science, and more importantly, it is a choice. The author invites us to reframe what it means to live and perform at a high level, not as a desperate sprint to outdo others, but as a deliberate, internally driven quest to fully express the best of who we are across all domains of life, our work, relationships, health, purpose, and inner peace. The journey begins with clarity. High performers know who they are, what they stand for, and what they are moving toward. They don't drift in the winds of external validation or the chaos of reactive living. Instead, they craft a vision for their life that is both bold and deeply personal. Clarity isn't a one-time epiphany, it's a practice. It's choosing, every day, to remember who you want to be when you're at your best. The book shares the example of a young executive, burned out and disconnected, who reclaims his sense of purpose not by changing careers, but by reconnecting with why he chose his path in the first place, to empower others to grow. In doing so, his work becomes not a burden but a sacred craft. Clarity, we learn, gives life direction, and direction gives rise to energy. And that leads us to the second pillar, energy. High performers are not necessarily born with more vitality, they create it. They protect and generate energy like it is their most precious resource, because it is. The book delves into the habits that elevate physical and mental energy, not through extremes, but through intentional choices, sleep, movement, nutrition, and above all, emotional regulation. The science is clear: when we master our internal state, we can sustain focus, enthusiasm, and resilience even in the face of adversity. But what's most powerful is the emotional depth with which the author addresses energy. We are shown that energy is not just about stamina, it's about emotional vibrancy. Joy, gratitude, love, these are not luxuries for later, they are fuel for now. The third core principle is necessity. High performers don't merely want to succeed, they must. But this must is not the pressure of perfectionism, it is the fire of purpose. It's the deep, soulful commitment that says, I am needed. My work matters. I must rise, not for ego, but for impact. The book recounts the story of a single mother who transformed her life not through luck, but through necessity. Every morning, as she faced the weight of responsibility and the pull of self-doubt, she reminded herself why she had to show up strong. For her children, for her future, for the people she was meant to serve. Necessity pulls performance out of us in ways that willpower alone cannot. When we connect what we do to who we love, what we believe, and who we hope to become, we become unstoppable. From this inner fire, the book moves into productivity, but not the mechanical, soul-draining kind. High-performance productivity is not about doing more, but doing what matters most, with excellence and consistency. The science reveals that top performers are not busier, they are better at prioritizing. They reduce distraction, eliminate the trivial, and invest their energy in the few activities that yield the greatest return. But productivity here is not divorced from humanity. We are reminded through moving stories, like that of a teacher who reshaped her chaotic schedule to focus on deeper student connections, that real productivity always has a human face. When we become intentional with our time, we don't just get more done, we build a life worth living. The next layer of this transformational journey is influence. High performers are not lone wolves, they lift others as they climb. Influence, as described in the book, is not manipulation or dominance, it is the ability to inspire belief and call forth potential in others. It's what makes leaders magnetic, coaches unforgettable, and friends transformative. We hear about a leader who stopped barking orders and started asking powerful questions, and how, in doing so, she ignited a dormant brilliance in her team. Influence begins with respect, deep listening, and the courage to challenge people toward growth. When we become people who encourage, uplift, and elevate, we naturally rise too. Finally, the book brings us to the soul of high performance, courage. Not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. Courage is what bridges the gap between who we are and who we are becoming. It's what compels us to have the hard conversation, take the big leap, speak our truth, or pursue the dream that feels just beyond reach. The stories in this section pierce the heart. A man paralyzed by fear of failure finally launches the nonprofit he's dreamed of for years. A young woman, stifled by expectations, finds her voice and changes the trajectory of her entire life. Each of them chose courage, and in doing so, chose growth. What emerges from this tapestry of science, stories, and spirit is not a rigid formula, but a living framework. High performance is not a destination, it is a way of being. It is showing up, moment after moment, as the most awake, alive, and aligned version of ourselves. It is the art of choosing to rise, not once, but daily, through clarity, energy, necessity, productivity, influence, and courage. But what makes this book truly transformative is its tone. It doesn't lecture, it invites. It doesn't pressure, it inspires. It meets you where you are, with compassion for your struggles and a fierce belief in your potential. It asks you to stop settling for the scraps of your capabilities and to start honoring the fullness of what you're here to do and become. It reminds you that high performance is not about impressing the world, it's about living in such a way that you are deeply impressed by yourself. And perhaps most beautifully, the book gently urges us to remember that our life is a message. Every action, every interaction, every choice is a thread in the story we are writing. When we choose the path of high performance, we are not just seeking success, we are becoming an example. For our children, for our communities, for the quiet part of ourselves that has always known we were meant for more. In the end, the science of high performance is not just a book. It is a mirror. It reflects back to us the truth that the life we long for is not as far away as we think. It is found in the next courageous choice, the next aligned habit, the next moment of integrity. And if we dare to live by its principles, we will not only perform at higher levels, we will live more fully, love more deeply, and leave behind a legacy of excellence and authenticity that ripples through the lives we touch. This is your invitation, not to be perfect, but to be present, not to chase more, but to become more, because the science is clear, but the calling is personal, and it is waiting for you to answer.